Hello, welcome to Smart in Messy Situations. I'm here with a special guest, one of the people that I told you would be here. Well, he's here. This is Energy Masta. Actually, he used to be a commentator for Wu Tang. What was that show?
Yeah, I was a co-host on Mook in the Morning for 2 years during the pandemic, alongside John Mook Gibbons, manager of Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah.
And he's also my firstborn son. He's extremely intelligent, extremely smart, or should I just say he's knowledgeable about a lot of things. His wife is actually here today. She's over there. Just wait real quick, Courtney.
Hmm.
Oh, she is an educator. That is the one I wanted to talk to about education. And maybe some of her ideas could help some of the public schools here in Macon, Georgia. But we were actually talking about an experience I had, whereas I actually passed over during a surgery, and how I came out of my body. And it was like I was a ball of light, but I could see everything that was happening. And I felt this presence there. Um, I don't know if it was my guardian angel or what they would say it was, but I just felt love and happiness. And we didn't talk like we're talking. It was like this thought process, this energy process. And whatever was with me say, it's time for you to go back. It's not time for you to be here. But I felt so happy and I felt so loved that I didn't want to go back, because I don't want to go back. And the being say, well, it's not time for you yet. So he picked off there something about, what did you just ask me?
Okay, so while I'm listening to her experience, this is my daughter, Kalia. Say hello, Callie. All right.
Isn't she beautiful?
All right. That's enough. Your baby shark is entirely too loud. We talking serious stuff right now. Go to mom. Go to mom. All right. So the question that I asked you earlier was, while you were in that state, whether or not you felt like, like something could have passed through you while you were in that state, or did you really notice no difference? Really, like did you still feel like you were in a body? That's what I asked. And what did you tell me?
I didn't feel any different. I felt as though I was still in life.
Still physical.
I
right?
didn't. Yeah. I felt physically alive.
Okay, so the reason that I asked this, okay, so it just so happens that I happen to be in what I say is a course, like I have an account with Darius J, Wright, and have participated in his workshops. And there's some people that come along that you just feel thankful that they exist. Not necessarily because they've done something specific for you or something like this, but when you hear somebody that is not only speaking about something that you have personally experienced and is knowledgeable enough to be able to give you some context around what's going on, not something that they read, but a person just like you who was experiencing something and took that extra step to figure out what the heck is going on with me, so that if it happened to somebody else, I'd be able to give them something of value.
Yes.
That's Darius J. Wright. So I want to make sure to give him credit for kind of filling in some of these pieces because there was several experiences that I was having. There were other types of experiences in which I was receiving certain information, just things I couldn't possibly have known.
Right.
And then I would look it up, like if it was like a scientific principle, or if it was like a math or just something, I would look it up to see if there was actually a precedent for it, and then it would actually exist. Right. But then what I would find is that the context I was getting with it, whoever these people who knew about this particular subject, that particular subject, they didn't know what it was. Like they might have like fine structure constant. This is something like something that pops up all the time in physics. They have no idea exactly what this thing is or why the dimensions of the constants that are in it cancel out when they end it. They can't figure it out. But I had all the information, like I just didn't have a name for it.
Yes.
And so you'll find that in Darius's talks, he would be describing things and then maybe not necessarily have the jargon around what that thing is, but then it would strike you as familiar, like, oh, you know what, this just like da 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 da, but it's also like this other experience I had. I was trying to figure out what it was. All right, so the reason that I asked you specifically about that constitution is because there's a difference between astral projection versus an out-of-body experience.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
All right. Now, the first distinction that Darius makes, and he clears up, is that the experience you're having in a near-death experience, they call it an NDE for short, is identical to the experience you have in an out-of-body experience, O.B.E. The difference is, typically in a near-death experience, you're not expecting to have that experience. You're not planning on being out of your body. It's just something happens, then you come back and you try to articulate what happened to you the best that you can. Well, in the case of an out-of-body experience, even though they can happen spontaneously, Darius figured out methods in order to be able to enter that state willingly and then be able to explore further and further and further with it. Now,
is this the same thing that Hannibal used in order to be able to know where his enemies were?
They say, but all right. So this lay out like some of the potential experiences. So you have what's called remote viewing. All right, and really with each of these different things I'm going to talk about, it really just comes down to the level of awareness, the level of consciousness that you have while in that state. Best example, you know how sometimes you'll have dreams, you'll have lucid dreams where you have full awareness that you're in the dream and you're aware that you're dreaming. And perhaps if you get too excited or something like that, you end up waking up or whatever. But you were aware, for whatever reason, while you're in the dream, you become aware that you were dreaming. Right? So that's lucid dream.
Yes.
Well, that's noticeably different from your regular dreams, because your regular dreams, it's like you're there, but it's like you don't really know you're dreaming really until you stop dreaming and you wake up and then you're like, oh, I had a dream, and then you felt like, oh, I had a dream. Well, the only difference in those cases is that you've only got partial awareness while you're in this state. So while you're dreaming, so it's almost like it's kind of like on autopilot for you a little bit. You get a little bit more awareness. Let's say you're in there maybe 40-50% in the lucid dreaming. Now with an before I even get to the out of body, astral projection and remote viewing, these are two things. Astral projection is essentially you're only about like halfway in, halfway out. You can possibly still be awake and stuff, but you're receiving a certain amount of information. It may not necessarily be clear or vivid or things of that nature, but it's enough for you to be able to actually have the experience or whatever. So that one's a little more common for people who, kind of meditate a little off, and people who, all right.
Meditation isn't as deep as when you go into this state, whereas you can have.
I won't say that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But
Okay.
yeah, but that's some advanced stuff. Like the average meditation that people are doing may not get there.
It's just on the surface.
Right. And so remote viewing, this is a technique that has been proven and utilized by the military, even though they don't want us to, think that it's a thing. But then you've had programs like MK Ultra, these secret programs where they were able to bring these people in, be able to enhance their abilities with augmentation technologies, and pick out targets for them to, to remote view. And then they've been able to bring lost people home doing this. They've been able to examine secret bases on the other side of the moon. All the craziest stuff that you could ever hear about, but they're doing it.
But right. I know for a fact, because your biological father, Brigadier General Stephen C. Smith, his father was in the military, actually talked to me about this, how they were able to have these out-of-body things, and they were able to look at land. What was it? When they come out, they were able to actually view like certain sectors of geography. But it does exist in the military.
Okay. So that's one thing. All right. So this is what we're talking about here with out of body. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're talking about 100% awareness in that state. That's going to allow you to basically travel. And it's going to sound wild. I would have to, kind of give more details about this for you to fully understand it, but give you the opportunity to basically know everything. The only real limit is going to come down to either your fear or other factors that may be limiting your level of consciousness, like poor health, just certain factors like this, or the possibility that we'll pause for a second. We're having technical difficulties with the light or whatever, because they know I'm talking about some mess. But anyway, so the opportunity to access higher information, if your body is receptive to it, because in order for you to bring it back, like we leave our bodies every single night, every single night without fail. We leave our bodies, we go elsewhere, we're journeying all around, but we're unconscious, we're not aware during that transition phase. You're typically, when you're entering that REM sleep, that deep sleep stage, typically your body shuts down and has you unconscious while that's happening. And so you don't usually remember that part of it. Okay, so I want to tell a couple stories so this isn't just something I'm just talking about, but to kind of give my experience on the matter. So when I was small, when we lived on Elkin Avenue here in Macon, when I was around like 3-4 years old, like in that age range, I would have these experiences at night. I would be sleeping in the bed, and this happens at least 2 times that I vividly remember clearly. I'd be in the bed, I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I would get up because I wanted to go to the kitchen, get a glass of water, climb out of bed, walk up the hallway. When I would get in the living room, there was this little window that was up at the top, like kind of close to the ceiling on the wall when you first walk into the living room. And then we had a larger window over here to the right. Whenever I would get about right there, I would see a being in one of these windows who looked like to me at the time, see, I think Hellraiser was out around that time. So it looked kind of like, to me, it looked like Pinhead without the pin. So it was just like a bald, slightly glowing figure that would be standing in the window, like not necessarily doing anything. And to me, it kind of looked like it had like planets orbiting around his head, like an atom or something like this. In retrospect, now that I think about it, the color that this being appeared, with the glow and everything, it could have very well been because it was standing under the it was like kind of like a bug zapper or at least a floodlight type thing that was near that particular window. So it did kind of look like that kind of purplish color. And then the things flying around his head could have easily just been like moths or, like insects that attracted the light. But that said, this thing was interacting with that environment in a very real way. And when I would see it, my heart would jump, and then I would wake up and I'd be in my bed. So that whole time, I thought for sure I was awake and had gotten out of bed, but then this thing startled me, and then I wake up back in my bed. So I had a couple interesting experiences like that when I was younger, and then my mom and dad put me in Middle Georgia Christian school, and I didn't really have experiences like that for a while. And fast forward to the weekend, so the day when my son was born. So after he's born, we're sleeping in the hospital. My wife's got to be there, a few days in order to be able to recover. And he had a talent for crying the second that you fell into a good sleep. So routinely throughout the course of our relationship, he would wake me during these stages of sleep where I wasn't supposed to be awake, and I would experience something weird. This particular time that I'm talking about, that I want to talk about, middle of the night, he slept in the same room that I did, so he wouldn't wake his mother up because she had to get up to go to work and stuff. And so middle of the night, he's still a small baby. I would have to get up, change him or feed him or something, middle of the night. If you're a parent, in the dark. So this particular night, I hear him crying. I jump up, go check on him. I see that he's fine. When I go back to the bed, I see myself lying in the bed. And I'm like, whoa! And then like lightning, I'm sucked back into my body. And then I was like, dang, I wasn't even awake. But then something else happens, and it looks like I wake up again. Like I wake up twice.
Like a dream within a dream?
Like a dream within a dream.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what? Like, what is even real right now? Because it keeps feeling real.
That's
when
what
I get
I
up.
wanted to ask you about. What's real? Are we in reality, or is that reality? I'm going to jump to something kind of like, I'll just have to keep what you're talking about.
I'm warming you up to it because
okay.
Because this is kind of it's going to be kind of heavy for folks, the reality of this stuff.
You guys know, and I've told you about my experience of seeing this huge white light one night coming down, hovering over my mother, and my mother was driving, and I was in the passenger seat, and this really bright light comes down, and then we lose time. But when we get back, the car's in a whole different place, parked in a whole different area, and that was an encounter. I don't know if it was a UFO, an alien encounter. All I know is after that, certain things started to happen in my life. So, is that connected?
The short answer is everything is connected, and I'll explain it once I get to it. All right, so those experiences happened when Shamal was small. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a little bit, So I started. Matter of fact, you were with me. You went with me to Tennessee to the Isha Center. So we went and we visited Sadhguru's Isha Center up there, and the experience was it was amazing for both of us because it was this feeling of like familiarity. Like we looked at these dark skinned South Indian people and we're like, wow, they look like they like people in our family.
I actually saw somebody that looked just like him.
People that look like outside of the family, like those people who first went into the Indian continent from Africa. Like you could see it in the South Indians of the Tamil and Telugu and all these people down there. And so, wonderful day, wonderful experience, profound experiences. Afterwards, I immediately go ahead and start, taking advantage of some of the free, Kriya and other, things available on Sadhguru's app. And so after I got through some mandalas or some of the practices that were on there, I decided to go ahead and take Shambhavi Mahamudra. All right, so Shambhavi Mahamudra is a 15,000 year old initiation, and you go through these certain steps, and it overall it helps to balance the masculine and feminine energies. When you're talking about masculine and feminine, when you're talking about these the energies, divine energies, it has nothing to do with gender. It doesn't have to do with boy or girl. We all have you could think of them as like yin and yang, push and pull. They each serve a particular purpose, in the universe to keeping things dynamic. And so when you're in balance, your body more effectively heals itself. It just starts opening up all sorts of abilities and things of that nature. Okay, so what started happening was on occasion I would be laying down to sleep. So for a while I hadn't had those experiences I was talking about before. I was at my grandmother's house. Shamar was up front with her. I go lay down, I'm taking a nap. I think I hear him crying or something like this. And I kind of like open up my eyes and I see, I don't know what was going to sound like. There was a commotion. I don't know what was going on. And it looked like I saw his mother walk past the door, the hallway. And then after a second, I'm like, I better go ahead and get up and help and see what's up. And so I go to get up, and then I realize, wait a minute. And I look back, and then all of a sudden I realize my body's there and it's in sleep paralysis. And I can't move. Well, I feel like I'm moving, but I had to take a second to check. So I said, let me wave my hand. I feel my hand waving. Let me wave it in front of my face. And then sure enough, I didn't see anything when that happened. I was like, oh, man. I was like, I got to get back in my body because I got to go check on Shamar like this. And so I'm trying to wake it back up. It feels like, once again, lightning strikes my body. And then when I wake up, I feel physically out of like my arm is like kind of like trembling and stuff. Like it feels like I've been struck by lightning. So it took a little second to kind of recover. And I kind of stumble up front and then realize, wait a minute, Courtney can't be here. She's at work. It's too early for her to be home. Why would she be here? And stuff. And then I started putting it together. I was like, I was going out of my body. I remember Sadhguru saying something to the effect of, we don't want you floating off of da. So we wear a copper necklace. So it's a necklace that has copper in it because when you're in meditation and you actually break. Yeah, let me show you. So this one, it has a Shiva linga on one side and it has a yoni, so which is represented by what you would call a hexagram, Star David, Star Solomon, But so anyways, but it has something to do with copper, and there's a reason for that. We won't get too deep into that. But so in these meditations, what I realized only after starting to take these courses with Darius, and he's explaining how this happens. What happens at night is that you go through sleep paralysis every single night. Hey, my brother just walked in. Look, so, yeah, so every night while you're unconscious, you go through sleep paralysis. This is your body's natural way of making sure. Brother Hug, I ain't seen him in over a year. What's up, man? Yeah. Hey, so your body goes into sleep paralysis basically to keep you from reacting to your dream. So while you're dreaming, your body goes into sleep paralysis. And all right, the thing about this, if you've ever had one of these experiences where you're conscious during sleep paralysis, it feels like you're dying. You feel like
yes.
It feels like you're having trouble breathing. You can't move. It's very common to see entities. You may see something that's sitting on your chest, something that's on the wall. All these types of experiences scares the dickens out of a lot of people. Yeah, because you don't know what's happening to you, right?
Right.
And now this is the bar to end all bars right here. So in Darius's case, he was having this happen spontaneously and sort of frequently. And so he finally said, you know what? Let me figure out what's happening to me.
Yeah.
Let me figure out why this is happening and so on and so forth. He started having the out-of-body experience where he's actually coming out of the body. Excuse you. Once he figures out that if he's not afraid, if he comes to it and just goes through the experience, he figured out the time and he said, okay, so this happens for about this amount of time. As long as I make it through there, you start feeling the connection of the soul from the body start to loosen a little bit, and it feels like you're kind of hovering about it. If you're aware during that stage, you can actually sit up in your soul body and then leave and walk away. You have to, you may feel a pull because there's an actual electromagnetic bond that's there that weakens at night or whatever, that allows you to be able to your soul to detach, and then that's what the part of you that's actually dreaming.
How was I mean, I wasn't doing it consciously. I actually passed away.
No, you were dead. So that's a near death experience.
It's like I just jumped.
Yeah. So it happens. It happens anyway when you die. Mm-hmm. So everything I'm describing now happens anyway when you die. The point of what Darius is teaching is so that you can access this state while you're still living, so that you can tell people what's happening on the other side. All right. So if you don't get too excited to where that connection, that bond happens, and you get sucked back into the body, if you move away far enough for long enough, you'll weaken the connection enough to where you can travel, you can go, and you can do stuff. Now,
when they tell you not to go into the light.
Well, all right, so there is a life, and I'll get into that in a second. So let me explain what's happening to you. So the reason I asked about how physical you felt while you're in that stage, look at this silly Billy right here. Or whatever. The reason I asked how you felt while you were in that stage is because we have this misconception that the soul is this airy fairy type of thing, but the truth of the matter is that it's actually more physical than your physical body. What I mean by that, and once again, like when Darius said it, like I already knew it. Like I was like, I've been studying, trying to figure out how to word this. I've been writing a book for the past, like, I don't even know how long, and was getting in the neighborhood of like 800 pages. I went back and, condensed it down to 50. But he's basically like all the same thing. Now, the crazy thing is that he had an entity while he was in these stages that before things were happening gave him specific dates. I think one of them had something to do with September 2023 and so on and so forth. These different dates. September 2023 was exactly like after I had started the Shambhavi process with Saga. So we went to Sadhguru in that July. So this is only a couple months later after that. That's when I had this experience where I started seeing this particular shape, this form that I could tell wasn't like a thought. It was like I could tell I could read the vibrations up here, and I got up, I drew it. Come to find out, like all this stuff having to do with the pyramids, having to do, like it was wild. Like there's no way I could have known this.
Well, we're gonna have to do a part two on this, and we're stopping at the pyramids. How would you wrap this up and tell us? Is this something similar to the veil between worlds?
The only veil is your understanding of what's happening to you, and all you need to know until we get into the next one is that fear of the unknown is the only thing stopping you from knowing the truth about everything and anything.
And now, I'm telling you, I felt no fear when I went to the other side. It was just like I was still in my body, but I just felt this overwhelming happiness and love and light, but it wasn't scary.
Yeah. So in the next one, I'll give you a little more of the context that'll allow you to be able to understand what we're talking about here versus the more kind of metaphorical, almost like air fairy type of way that this information is typically approached and presented in like the new age type of sector, and just be able to break it, because these are real experiences that people are having that do have an impact on this world. So don't think it's just some thing like, okay, it's a great hobby. You know what I'm saying? And we'll pick it up from there.
Thank you so much, and we'll be back for a part 2 on this and get a little bit more knowledge about out of body or our consciousness. And well, many religions describe it as being a veil between two worlds. But I believe what they were talking about is this consciousness, right? Conscious state.
We'll get into it, because there's basically
part 2 is coming.
Two ways to live.
Thank you for joining Smart and Messy.